I really worry about a gambling, with gambling
Oh,
being as prevalent as it is. I
yes.
mean, it is, you've already starting to see it. It's only going to get worse. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I worry that there's going to be a major, major point shaving scandal it's going to hit college sports because it's easier to get to college. Because LeBron James is not going to fix a game because he makes too much money.
Right.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, where I bring you the best and the brightest in the world of business, marketing, sports, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Folks, I got a great one today. My guest is Joe Paterno, author, coach, media voice, and a leading thinker on the future of college football. And Jay spent over 2 decades coaching at Division I level, including 17 years at Penn State, and brings a rare inside view of leadership under extreme pressure. He's a best-selling author of Paterno Legacy and Hot Seat, and his latest book, Blitzed, The All-Out Pressure of College Football's New Era, explores how big money, NIL, mental health, and consistent scrutiny are reshaping sports. Jay is also the son of legendary coach Joe Paterno, a perspective that has deeply shaped of how he thinks about leadership, responsibility, and legacy while still forging his own path. Today, we're unpacking what college football's evolution can teach all of us about leading through change when the stakes are high. Let's get into it. Jay Paterno, welcome to the podcast, man.
Great to be here.
When I saw this invite come through, I'm like, shit, I got to talk to this guy. I got to find out. So listen, everyone knows the Paterno name. Football is in your blood. It's in your DNA. But Jay, let me ask you, what was that first childhood memory when you fell in love with the sport?
Would have been, I went to my first game of September of 73. I don't like to admit that, but I'm old. So I was 5 at that, and Cap led the Heisman Trophy for Penn State that year, and Penn State went 12-0. So obviously, I was like, "This is how it is every week. We win every game, and we have the best player in the country, and that kind of thing." So that really kind of ignited the fuse.
I love it. Do you remember the first taste of loss as a fan?
No, actually, thankfully, I've kind of zoned that out, or suppressed that memory.
That's interesting too. I don't know if you could tell. I'm wearing a New York Mets hat here. I'm a diehard New York Mets fan, and I think the DNA of a Mets fan is learning to deal with loss, learning to accept losses, and I think that goes with everything. So you've grown up in one of the most well-known legacies in sports. I got to ask you, how has your father Joe's influence shaped how you think about leadership and responsibility and just doing things the right way? Having that
Oh,
front row seat.
yeah, I mean, massively. I mean, it was the very, you know, he look, no human being's perfect, but he had a set of core values, and his intention in everything he tried to do was to try and do the right thing. And I think that's important, to have that intention. Look, we're all going to make mistakes. I mean, unfortunately, today, as we look at leadership, what a lot of people think is leadership is never admitting you're wrong, doubling down even when all the things in front of you say you made a mistake. And that's not how I was raised. So to me, this is a very foreign world right now where we're in.
Do you think I mean, if I'm reading between the lines here and what I'm taking, it's a lack of accountability. Where did this come from? I grew up, I'm Gen X, born in 79, and I grew up in a household of teachers. I both my parents are teachers. I learned about accountability, and I'm trying to teach it to my kids. So when you make a mistake, own up to it. Why do you think leaders are just not? Is it coming from the top down when we look at, not to get political, but is it we don't have any good examples of accountability?
I think there's no question that this is, and not to get political, but political leaders in this country, without getting into names,
Right.
they will just continue to insist what they're saying is accurate, even in the face of results or evidence, whatever it is, to the contrary. And I think we as people, for some reason, are identifying with that kind of leadership right now in this moment. And so we're electing people that are doing that. So we're getting the leadership we deserve.
That's
And that, whether you like it or not, that's reality.
We get what we ask. We get what we ask for, right? Like that's what we want. That's how we vote in. So getting back on track here, because I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole of politics, which I don't do on the show. I don't think you want to get into that right
Yeah.
now. But when you talk about accountability, how do you put that into practice with the teams that you coach? How do you coach accountability?
Well, I think two things. You set a standard. Okay, this is what we expect. We always had a very not a big set of team rules, but a very well defined set of team rules, a set of expectations. I coached for a guy, George Welsh, at the University of Virginia, and he ended up being a college football Hall of Fame coach, and he had played the Naval Academy, and he said, the Navy has thousands, and you're going to break them, and they're small. He said the Marine Corps had like 10 rules, and they enforced the hell out of it. So it's a question of, with your accountability, what do you set up? So we tried to set up in everywhere I coached, a list of well-defined rules, a list of expectations, and then there were repercussions if you weren't accountable to those things. But at the same token, from the leadership standpoint, Joe demanded that us as coaches and of himself, so that there was an example to the players. If we failed to do something or we made a mistake, we would own it and express that we had failed to live up that standard and that we would improve as well. So it went for everybody. And I think that's something that leaders need to do more and more of, is demonstrate personal accountability as well, and be willing to say, I've got to do certain things.
I absolutely love that. What's one of those core values that your dad instilled in you that you've put your own kind of flavor and spin on?
Well, I think it's trying to do right by everybody. I think we used to, and not to get this, but before and after every game, we would say the Lord's Prayer as a team. And I asked him one time, I said, can you talk about that prayer? He said, well, first of all, it's really non-denominational. It is a prayer that doesn't delve into one set of beliefs over another.
It's more about faith.
Yeah, and he said every pronoun in that is plural. It is we, us, our. There is not a single I, me, or mine. And he said it's a prayer for our daily bread, the common good, and for us to be forgiven as we forgive others. He said it's not to win, it's not for power or domination over anyone, it's not for wealth, it's for essentially the basic. And he said, and that's where we should all be coming from, we and us people. And I try and live that way all my life now. And with my own kids, I'm constantly telling them, when we talk about it, don't always talk in I and me terms, talk about me and us. And that signals to other people that they also have part ownership of what you're doing when it's a we and us proposition.
I mean, it totally comes down to leading by example. So I want to go back to your early coaching days. What was that first time that you really got punched in the face as a coach, right? Like you thought you were doing something the right way and it just backfired. And what'd you learn from that?
I've probably
You
forgotten.
probably
I
actually
think,
got punched in the face, right?
no, I never actually got physically punched in the face. But I think there are some lessons you learn in coaching. And in 2002, we played at Ohio State, and Ohio State didn't win the national championship that year. And I was still relatively a young coach, third year as a coordinator, calling plays. And we had a really good offensive team that year. And we were beat Ohio State, I think 7-6. And we had a third and 18 inside our own 20, some, whatever the yard line was. It was deep in our own territory. And our defense is playing really well. And so it came down to, should we just run a draw if we split it and get the first down, or punt it and make them try and score against our defense? And the ego got a little bit ahead of what the team was. So I I called a fairly risky play, not risky, but what I thought would work to try and get us to third down because I wanted us to keep the ball rather than rely on our defense. And we got a pick six down. We threw it down the field 30 yards, but a guy named Chris Campbell got it, weaved all the way through. We lost the game 13-7. They never scored against our defense had we not done that. And we may have won that game. But I learned, but that was one of those ones when I walked off the field. I was like, that's on me. That was a little bit of my ego over the team. And then 3 years later, we had a similar game against Ohio State. Didn't make that mistake.
Nope.
3 years after that, we were out there, had a similar game. Didn't make that mistake and won the game. So you learn, but that's the important thing is that you learn when you have that moment.
As long as you keep learning. So let's get into it here. And you lived inside college football for decades, coach, author, and now an advocate for this future. Why did this moment feel like the right time to write Blitz? Like, what's different now than even 5-10 years ago?
Well, I don't think coaches now have any downtime. I mean, a player can say, "I'm out of here," I'm gone. You're when you're recruiting, you're not talking high school coach parents anymore. It's okay. We had a great visit, but call my agent.
Yeah.
And it's not just college football. I mean, the head volleyball coach at Penn State who won the national championship a year ago. I've known her for 25 years. They're dealing with this in women's volleyball, basketball. I mean, number of these sports. So they're all going through the same thing. But when you look at the pressures and the money and the demands of fame, the demands of powerful boosters, there's a real mental health aspect that's impacting coaches. And everybody thinks this is all well and good for players because they can all make all this money. But now there's a mental health aspect to them where I really want to be at Penn State. I love it here, but my family says I can make more money
Going
elsewhere and they need the money. So I thought it was a good time to kind of pull the curtain back on that and let people understand what's really going on.
Yeah, and for anyone out there, we're talking about NIL, and NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. And this is referring to the rights of college student athletes to earn money from their brands, endorsements, and sponsorship. And I think it's been around for about 5 years at this point. And it allows them to make money. So that we could see it from the player side, right? We understand that they're looking at the schools are making money, the networks are making money out there. So why shouldn't we? But what we're not talking about is behind the scenes. And what I love about your story here is you're pulling back the curtain and we're talking about the pressures. We're talking about the pressures on the players. How much of this pressure is affecting their actual ability and skills? And let's talk about it from your perspective.
Well, I think some kids handle it well. They've got a good support system. But, part of what these kids have to do is you've got to go on social media and post to represent our brand.
Build a brand.
So now quarterback goes out and throws an interception in a game that costs his team the game. And he's got to post like, I'm going to have my drink after the game to rehydrate. And then the reaction from fans is just brutal. Like, you suck. All these things. And they have more ability to get at these guys. So they got to be able to wade through that. They've got to do certain appearances. So I think all these things can affect you from here up. And if you're not right from the neck up, it doesn't matter how talented you are as a player, you're not going to play your full potential.
And let's talk about it from the business side too. I mean, let's take a look at the recent championship, Miami versus Indiana, right? Like, keep me straight here. What was Indiana's record last year?
Well, 2 years ago they were back. Last year I think they went 11-2 or whatever it was, and then this year they went 16-0. Yeah.
All right. So
and they made a very big jump.
How did this, for anyone out there? Let's go back to the tape here. How did they get to be from so bad to national champions?
Well, they brought in a coach named Kurt Signetti, who has won every level he's been at. He has a certain way of doing things. He has a confidence, certainly, that is infectious to everybody around him. And he demands accountability. Mm-hmm. And those are things he's been doing for a long time. So he brings that to Indiana and says, one of the things I thought was really interesting is when he was introduced as their new head coach at a basketball game, he said, one thing I know is Purdue sucks. And that's their big in-state rival, and everybody cheers. But he went a step further. He said, but so does Ohio State and Michigan.
Ooh.
So in that moment, he was telling his fan base and certainly his players, we're not just here to win our rivalry. We're shooting beyond that to be the best in this league. So he got players that believed. He found some players, did his own evaluation of players rather than relying on recruiting services or everybody else, and then developed them. And then this year ends up with a team that's older, more mature, that's been around for a couple of years, and they were able to compete against anybody.
How did the alumni, donor, sponsors influence this team being built up? Did they need that money?
Well, there's no question. And no one's, there's a lot of stories out there about how much money these guys were paid. No one's really sure, and no one's really said, this is what we put into this. But certainly that was a factor. And certainly they got the quarterback transferring from Cal, but he wasn't the first quarterback on everybody's list. But certainly he got some money to come. And now going forward, there'll certainly be that pressure to players that'll say, well, I need X amount more. And they just got a quarterback from TCU who transferred to Indiana. So that's not free. So those things are part of it. But the business model that college football is being based on right now is you're relying on donors and boosters to come up with 20 million a year to cover your payroll. That's not a business model. And sooner or later, the boosters are going to say, well, how many years in a row do I have to do this? Maybe I want part ownership of, create a entity where I have an ownership stake or I'm getting return on my investment beyond the ego boosts of championships and that kind of stuff. So we're at a very interesting period of time where this is going to transition very quickly.
Do you think we're past the point of no return, or is there an opportunity to course correct here?
I think largely past the point of no return. I think there is a little bit of a course correction that can happen. And I've proposed this a number of times. Now, I'm on the board of trustees at Penn State. And one thing that's starting to happen is a number of trustees and regents at different schools are starting to talk about this amongst ourselves because coaches have identified problems, presidents identify problems, athletic directors, they're all identifying these problems that we all can see and we all know, but no one's providing solutions. So one of the solutions I've come up with, which is kind of a course correction, would be if I'm recruiting you out of high school to play at Penn State, I give you two options. You can sign a 4-year contract with us, which is going to include your scholarship. And say you want to major in engineering or business. Right. You're going to be in that program and you're going to commit to us for 4 years. And if you want to transfer, we'll have a much more rigid process for you to leave. But on the flip side, we can't cut you after either. We're committing to you. You're committing to us. That would be a course correction on one side. And then on the other side, say, okay, you want to just look at this as an NFL apprenticeship, like you would be an apprentice for a trade, or you want to major in engineering. Okay, you come in, you're going to take classes on nutrition and financial literacy, and these things are going to prepare you for pro sports. But at the end of that year, if you want to leave, you can leave. But if we don't think you're good enough, we can cut you loose too. So I mean, we have to get it back to where it's a two-way street for everybody.
Yeah, it's not fair. I mean, talk about the smaller schools also, right? It used to be a meritocracy, and now it's completely donor based. It's who has the richest alumni. Not every school has a Mark Cuban, right? They don't all have that. I want to go back to talking about leadership. I mean, this is at your core, and especially leadership under pressure, right? And you've coached in extreme environments and you're being scrutinized. What does college football really teach us about leading under this relentless pressure that could apply beyond sports? This is something you really talk about that I want to bubble up.
Well, I think one thing about college football is when the real pressure points are coming. Just like in a lot of businesses, that your quarterly earnings are coming up or your sales season is going up or whatever it may be, and when those pressure points really are going to be. So it comes down to your preparation in anticipation of those. Everybody looks at the 12 games you play in college football a year. But the minute you finish that last game in January, you have a day or two, and when you turn the page with the new team and new guys, and you start with winter workouts, and then you're recruiting your new talent to come in at the same time, and then you get the spring practice, then you get in the summer workouts, and then you get in the preseason camp, and then you're in the games. And you have to constantly be training your mind, because on game day as a coach, you have to be able to process information in literally 15 seconds to make a play.
Right.
Play
The clock's ticking.
The clock, the minute the ball is put down, you're going, okay. And even after you send the play in, so it's 1st and 10, you send in a play, while they're communicating and getting ready to go, you're now saying, okay, if we make a first down, what do we do?
It's an if then, right, in your head. What do we
You're
do?
like, you immediately go to the next. And every time you make a decision, there will be an outcome. And then you have to react to that outcome. So it's this total cycle, which is life. I mean, that's not just football. That's real life. But it's just not everybody has to do it in front of 100,000 people.
No, and a national audience. Jay, I'm curious. What's your game day ritual when you were coaching?
It was pretty easy. I would get up and review the game plan, have a little something to eat before the game. And it depends. If the game was at night, then you would have meetings with players during the in the morning. Have like a brunch and then a pregame meal. If it was a noon game, it was up and at 'em right away. But like for a home game, I would park. My parents lived 3 blocks from campus. So I would park my car at my parents' house so my wife could use the parking passes for the
Right, there
game.
you go.
And I would walk to the game. And then after the game, my dad and I would walk home. So that was kind of the pregame ritual that I had.
Hey everybody, Adam here from the Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by the team at Fountain. Fountain is your full-service frontline workforce management platform. I have to tell you, Fountain's offerings are some of the most robust I've seen for any product in the space. They offer full solutions for hiring, managing, and retention. They are truly a one-stop shop focused on the frontline workforce. They also create informative content using their data. For example, they analyze a bunch of data from their fast food chains and created a trend report you could download now on their website. They also have a new ebook out called Frontline Voices. There's a lot to dive into. Certainly check it out. And you could learn more at fountain.com, linked in the show notes. Thank you. I love it. It's so funny too. And I'm kind of smirking here because I mentioned our friends' daughters at Penn State too. And they always laugh about the hotel prices. They're like, do you ever see a Holiday Inn for $1,400 a night? You ever see a
Holiday?
Oh yeah. they have all the swag
and 2-night minimum.
Oh, that's the other thing too. But you have to do it. You have to. I'm like, you might as well just buy a house there. Just buy it, and it'll be a lot more affordable there.
You cannot believe the real estate market in this town because of that.
Exactly.
Because there are so many alums that have second homes, and it's insane.
It's a smart move. So I want to talk a little bit about culture, right? Now I want to talk about culture in the locker room. What are some of those signals, right, that you've seen in the locker rooms where culture is starting to fracture and performance is dropped? That those signals that now you're teaching to business leaders, right? How to identify those culture fissions in their workplace.
Well, you can see there are people that perform at a certain level that have always performed at a certain level, and suddenly they're not performing quite, or they're inconsistent, or you have to watch relationships. How do people interact? When we go out in the practice field, you see how, is there something not right? Is there something off? And you've got to constantly be evaluating it. I think the important thing, the way to be able to see those things coming is to gather as much information, understand as much as you can about each player or employee, so that we would have a guy that wasn't performing really well or had fallen off. And the first thing Joe would say, hey, what's going on home?
Right.
And then you find out, he found out his mom has cancer, or it might be girlfriend issue, or is not doing well in a class and he's worried about it, and that's affecting things. So we had to know. He would say, look, they're not robots. You got to remember, they're not robots.
And they're kids. Most of them are kids still.
Yep. Yeah. And it's no different than employees. I mean, you've got to know, there are employees that suddenly have an elderly parent living with them, and that's a stressor, or a spouse that's going through something, or a kid that's going through something. And it's important to know those things and develop those relationships so that they are comfortable enough to come. And then you also got to understand how people are interacting. That's important to watch how people interact, and chemistry. And the minute you see that start to fray a little bit, it's always best to err on the side of caution. If you even suspect something's not right, or if you continue to do some things to kind of build chemistry and maintain chemistry, I think that the ounce of prevention is always better than a pound of cure.
Right. And it's interesting too when you think about sports, especially football, being hard nosed and tough. How do you find that balance between being empathetic and caring, but also, having discipline in the world of coaching? That's got to be tough.
It's a fine line, and it's different with every person you deal with, and that's why it's so important to know where these guys were coming from. Like you would know, we had a situation one time where we had a big time running guy, and his weight went up a few pounds, and was not quite as fast as he should have been. And Joe kind of got on it, and kind of yelled, and the guy hit him, and he kind of went in a shell. And the guy that recruited him said to Joe, he said, "Look, he was raised by his mom, so he was the man of the house.
Right.
You're the first male figure that has ever talked to him in that kind of tone." And Joe, okay, got it. And Joe dealt with him differently from then on. And the guy went on to be an All-American, went on to be a first-round draft pick, and responded to that different approach. Whereas some other guys want that kind of, yeah, coach, I love it when you yell at me.
It all depends how you respond, and that's really the key of coaching. It's an individual level as well, how each one of them responds. So let's talk about the book. It's keep me straight. It's your third book, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Let me rephrase that. What did you learn about yourself in the process of writing this book that was different than the first two?
I think this one was longer, and it was more controversial because there are issues of race in this book. There are issues of, college football is now seeing women in the workforce in terms of analytics, coaching, and how do you deal with that dynamic that you didn't have? So that it was fraught writing that. Certainly the mental health aspect was part of it. So I learned some things about leadership in going back through notes as a coach as to how I handled certain things or how coaches I knew handled certain things. So I had to put myself in that position as the head coach, writing it in the first person to kind of rediscover some of the leadership things that I had used as a coach and inject them into this guy's persona. Because it's not autobiographical, but it is based on personal experiences and personal accounts.
So let's talk about that. The equity, the gender equity, having female coaches, coaching staff, trainers in there too. How did you have to adjust so you could best represent, to the team how you should act and how do you behave? Was that tough for you? I mean, you're old school. You come from an old school family, right?
We had, going back, this might have been 2004, 2003. So this was a while ago. We had a female student at Penn State who wanted to try out as a kicker to try and walk on. And I remember Joe said to us, "Now look, you have to respect her just like you respect anybody else. She's going to try out. And if she's good enough, she'll be on this team and we'll treat her as such. If she's not good enough, I'll meet with her. I'll explain to her the criteria and I'll be upfront with her. But if nobody make any comments, nobody be derisive in your comments, because even amongst yourselves, I don't want to hear it because that'll seep through and it's not right." And she tried out and she did not quite have the range. And Joe met with her afterward and said, "Look, you're a little bit off in terms of range and the distance that we need in leg strength, but I would encourage you to work out and give it another try." Now, the guy we had in the team ahead of her was a guy named Robbie Gould, who kicked for 20 years in the NFL. So, I mean, it wasn't like she wasn't better than he was. I mean,
it's
he's
Robbie
pretty good
Gould,
dude.
yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, she ended up going into she said, "You know what? I gave it a shot, and I'd like to do some things on the administrative side and help help in the football office, and she did and had a great experience, and still talks very positively about that whole thing. So that leadership from the head coach saying you're going to handle things this way and you're going to treat everyone with respect, both in front of them and amongst ourselves. That was a great lesson for all of us.
And it always goes back to leading by example. If there's a core theme here from you, from your dad that you learned, it's leading by example. So in the book, we obviously talk about you obviously talk about mental health too. And I want to dig into the responsibilities that leaders have to really protect it, to protect not only their mental health but the players' mental health. And those incentives often reward the burnout and the silence.
No doubt. I think the mental health thing, when I was still coaching, nobody talked about it. And we as coaches had to kind of be quasi counselors for these guys and bring them in and talk them. And some people could handle it and some people weren't as good at it. And, we were fortunate we had some guys in our staff that were like, hey, I'm not sure how to handle this. Does anybody? So it was a team effort always. But I think the mental health challenges have ratcheted up because I think there's more pressure on guys. Plus, there's less of a stigma of coming forward and talking about it.
Well,
It's
that's a good
still
sign.
not where it should be, but it's still the idea of a coach going and getting mental health is a little bit like Tony Soprano, and the Soprano's going to
Right.
he's going to a
It
shrink.
shows a sign of weakness.
Yeah. So I mean, these are the kind of things that I think are evolving, and as we evolve, and as you look at a guy like Ryan Day at Ohio State, he has been very vocal about this stuff, about these issues. And I think that's been important for people to see that example.
And I think it's also if you frame it up with mental health as coaching, right? That's the way I talk
Yep.
about it with my guy friends too. I'm like, even if you don't think you have something going on, the ability to talk to somebody who's not a friend, who's not judgmental, who could actually help you through something is going to make you stronger in your relationships, your personal relationships, your professional relationships at work, your mindset. So I think framing it up that way as like it's meant it literally is mental health. How do you keep your body in peak performance and how do you keep your mind in peak performance? So the other side of the book, as you alluded to before, you don't hold back here, right? You talk about corruption, politics, accountability. Was that a tough decision for you to pull back that curtain?
No, because I think it's important for people to understand, as a guy who's been on the board of trustees at Penn State, I see some of the egos and the clash of egos and people wanting to inject themselves into the football side or whatever it may be, or to think they should do whatever they want, should win at all costs. So those things are very, very real. And when I talk to trustees at other schools, you see this all over the place where that's where a lot of corruption comes in is we have to win. I want to win. My
What's
ego
it going to
wants us
take?
to win. We're going to do what we want. And we'll sacrifice the ethos and the things that have made our university unique and different. And right now we're at a point where academic integrity in some of these schools is at risk because the money has gotten so big, the demands have gotten so big, and we're being asked to cut corners on the academic side to get more wins, and that can't be.
It can't be. So is it going to change or is it not? How is it going to change?
I think it's going to take, as I mentioned, a lot of people identify the problem, but when you look at the trustees and regents at these universities, we're the ones that are responsible for the fiduciary responsibility of the university. So we have to deal with what has come to us and ensure that's sustainable for what will come. And we also have to protect the academic integrity of this university. Whereas presidents are jumping around every 3 and 4 years, which is different than it's been. Coaches are jumping around, athletic directors jumping around, but we're the ones that have to maintain the long-term health of the place. So I think there's going to be a place for us to get in and try and help shape the future model of what college football will look like. Not getting into who you should hire, who you should recruit, but these are the rules of the game. This is how we want to force the rules of the game. When I say game, I mean recruiting, integrity, not the actual,
The
what the
process
holding call.
of
Yeah.
football, of college sports, and applies to all the college sports too. And I really hope that this book is getting the national attention and starts to really open up eyes and more importantly, have these really important conversations to drive the needle. Jay, who's this book for? Who should pick it up?
Well, if you're a college football fan, certainly. If you're in leadership, there'll be a lot of things in there for you. If you are a kid or a parent of a kid who thinks big time college football is something you want to be a part of, this is going to open your eyes to some of these things. If you're a coach, so I think there's a lot of different people that can learn things from it, and I hope that people in leadership positions at universities will look at this and go, because even though it's a novel, it is based on true stories that are going on right now, which makes it easier to tell it honestly without having to worry about lawyers or these, all these, or someone blowing my car up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for leaders out there, whether if you're in sports, business, public life, who feel like this ground is consistently shifting, beneath them, what's that one principle that you believe matters most right now?
I think as you mentioned, in so many areas of this world, whether it's college sports or business, so much is moving so fast. The sands are shifting and everything. What it really comes down to is I've got to have, when I start out, I have to lay out these core foundational principles that I stand for. This is what we stand for. This is what organization stands for. Tactics can change and they have to change.
Right.
But what you're trying to bring it back to cannot change. And if you do that and you're consistent, you will maintain your credibility with the people that you lead, whether times are good or bad, because they know that there is this anchor and there is this core that they can hitch themselves to, no matter what else is going on.
It always comes back to the foundational values. Jay, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. We are recording this on the 30th of January. Give me your Super Bowl prediction.
Oh, geez. I don't know. I do think the two best teams are in it. I think the two teams and I think that's good. I don't know. It's
throw it out there.
My wife's a Steeler fan.
Okay.
And there's kind of this deep-seated resentment of the Patriots. So I kind of want to see the Seattle Seahawks win. And there's a Penn State guy on both teams. So either way, Penn State guy's going to get a Super Bowl ring. So I just want to see a really, really good football game.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing, to see Drake May, that storyline play out, and to see Sam Darnold, who's, is finally on the right team with the right support around them. And I'm a Giants fan, but you know what? As a Jets, I have friends that are Jets fans. I want to see that for them too. I think it's a nice thing to have. All right, let's wrap it up here. Jay, what's keeping you up at night these days?
Oh, I think the future of college football. I mean, we've got, as a trustee, there's a fiduciary. The model we're in is not sustainable. And I worry about the financial model going forward for college sports, because it could gobble up a lot of debt on the academic side. So that keeps me up. And then I really worry about gambling, with gambling being as prevalent as it is.
Oh, let's talk about that for a second, Jay.
I mean, it is, you've already starting to see it. It's only going to get worse. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
It's the next epidemic. Yes.
And I worry that there's going to be a major point shaving scandal it's going to hit college sports, because it's easier to get to college. Because LeBron James is not going to fix a game because he makes too much money.
Right.
But a college kid who doesn't really have a great NIL and maybe at a school that's a little under the radar, it's pretty easy to make sure you win by 8 instead of 15.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to miss a play.
Yeah.
It's scary. I mean, you look at it. I mean, you could now bet on a drive in game the second before the drive. I mean, it's in the NFL. It's everywhere. It's like, and thank God. Listen, we all have our vices, Jay. Don't get me wrong, but thank God I've avoided. The only thing I bet on is the Super Bowl because it's fun, and I do some crazy parlays just because it keeps you more in the game too. But I see my friends around me who never had addictive personalities. They're literally betting every week because it's so easy and it's scary. It's really scary. And it's easy to do.
Yeah.
It's 2 seconds. You can just do it right here. There's no.
You
don't have to go to a bookie. You don't have to go to the bar, right, Jay? You don't have to go to the bar and find the bookie in the smoky bar in the back corner. The bookie.
And it's not like you take $100 bill out of your wallet and hand it to somebody.
No.
It's just, it comes right off this. It comes right up. You don't even realize it.
No, and they've gamified it too with all the bonuses and everything. They make it seem easy. It is scary there. That's something we need to keep an eye. Do you have any seeds of an idea for your next book?
I'm working on the leadership book right now that focused. I've been fortunate in my life to be around multiple United States presidents, CEOs of major corporations, and then everyday heroes and leaders that I've met in my life. My mom is one of the great leaders I've ever been around.
Love that.
So there are all these lessons over time that I keep notebooks. I'm analog. I still write things down, and I go through these notes, and I'm starting to fill that book. And I've sketched it out. I've got chapters written. So that's the next book that's coming.
I love it. And I want to thank you so much for joining me. But before I wrap up, one last question. Jay Paterno, you've been around success your entire life. It's in your DNA. It's what you breathe. It's what you preach. It's what you teach. But Jay Paterno, at this moment of your life, in your career, with your family, how do you define success?
Well, again, this is another lesson from my dad. There's two words: success and excellence. Success is how the outside world views you. How much money do you make? What kind of car do you drive? All those kind of things. And excellence is internal. And it's how well do you adhere to what you stand for. So, if I can go to bed every night and look myself in the mirror and my conscience is clear from what I did that day, that's a success to me, and that's excellence to me. The rest of it will take care of itself.
Well, amen to all that. And Jay, I want to thank you so much for your time and your energy and your wisdom. Everyone out there, please check out Jay's latest book. We'll link it up on the comments blitz. You can also find out more about Jay and his bio and where he's speaking and all that kind of good stuff at jpaterno.com. Everyone out there, if this show meant something to you, leave a review rating. It goes a long way. Sharing means caring. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.